What is up, everybody? As promised, Lando Show episode 21 with your Championship Sunday NFL football playoff preview. The NFC and AFC Showdown featuring, honestly, probably four of the best quarterbacks in the league. Four of the top 7 MVP favorites. So, that tells you all you need to know there about how important the quarterback position is. But, on the NFC side, you got the two 12s, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, bona fide first ballot Hall of Famers, two of the greatest quarterbacks of our era, maybe of all time, probably undoubtedly both top 5 all time. Tom Brady is, his 6 Super Bowl rings kind of leaving no doubts there about his legacy. Again, and then on the AFC side, You've got the two bona fide Hall of Fame GOATs in the NFC. And then on the AFC, here comes these two young stallion extraterrestrial Martians, just with talent and ability that we have, honestly seen maybe once or twice before, at least in my lifetime. It's just, the ceiling that we're seeing already from these two guys, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Feels like it's pretty limitless because they, week in, week out do things that just aren't supposed to be done. Like 25-year-old kids shouldn't be able to do what they're doing with ease, it feels like. So excited to break this one down. Wanted to also acknowledge real quick, good news on the horizon. I guess I talked to Hunter Sands. He said he's also bringing his podcast over to the YouTube element, the YouTube side of things. So be excited to see what he kind of does with that. His podcast is doing well, taking off. So looking forward to seeing him bust into the YouTube ranks. I think he's actually planning on dropping some content on here today. So I may figure out what that link is, what his channel is going to be titled. I'll drop the link for you guys if y'all want to head over to his site and check it out too. Passionate Bucs fan, so I'm sure he's going to have some exciting content ready for this matchup on Sunday. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from that. But yeah, let's get right into it, guys. So first of all, obviously, most of you probably know the Bucs and Packers did match up already once this season in Week 6, and a lot of you also know, if you know that game did occur, you also probably know that the Packers didn't exactly have their best day. The Bucs got the best of them, 38-10, in that matchup. And so I just, again, like I said, excited to break this game down for y'all. There's a lot of things that I'm looking at, from a analytical perspective, things that I've kind of studied. I did go back and look at that game this morning just to kind of retouch and refresh my memory on some things that I saw. And the biggest thing was that here's the first talking point that I want to acknowledge first. So that game, you guys may remember, Davante Adams was coming off a hamstring injury, and I think he played week 1 and then missed weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. So he missed a 4-week stretch there in which he was basically looking at this game from the jump. As his return date. This was the one that they had highlighted. Obviously, a huge matchup. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, part 1 of the season. It's like this is a big potential game-changing matchup in terms of how we thought that, or how the Packers thought that the NFC could potentially shake out. With seeding and all that stuff, right? It's important. So we saw Davante Adams come back, and he didn't look 100% to me. And, based on what I remember at the time, I remember thinking, yeah, okay, so he does look a little hampered. And then going back, watching the video today, or the game recap, it did kind of reaffirm that, he's obviously their most important piece aside from Aaron Rodgers in that offense. And to have their deadliest weapon, for lack of a better term, being hampered by an injury, obviously that changes some things philosophically and how you attack that Bucs defense. So on the Bucs side, right, we did, Robert Tonyan and David Bakhtiari were also injured in that game too. So that's another nugget to keep in mind. On the Bucs side, though, conversely, I wanted to refresh your memory. I talked about last week Going into that Saints matchup, those linebackers, Levante David, Devin White, we saw that impact, right? That Devin White had the game of his career, game-changing performance. Just those guys in a dome, playing fast downhill the way that they like to, and the speedy guys on the outside, Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis, without anybody to really stretch the field vertically. I knew that was going to be a huge problem for the Saints, especially with a guy like Drew Brees, who, God love him, respect the heck out of that guy. I knew his arm was going to be an issue, and I said that in last week's preview, and that turned out to be right. And so what I'm getting at is, we also found out that Michael Thomas's ankle, after the fact, he was playing through still like an 85 at best % ankle, which makes a lot of sense why he was so ineffective and basically a non-factor in the playoffs. So that's key to remember there as well. But so if you can't stretch this Bucs defense vertically, if you can't, protect the quarterback in the pocket, allow time for these receivers to get downfield, and if you don't have somebody that can get downfield consistently, you're not gonna beat this team. So the Packers do, though, however. So they have that ability. And now with a full healthy slate of weapons on the outside, you've got Davante Adams, obviously 100%. I don't have to tell you guys how good he is and what he brings to the table. You've got guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is, more or less a vertical threat, but again, stretches the field vertically on these corners, who are susceptible to double moves and, all that thing. And then you've got Alan Lazard coming along too, who's making big plays in their playoff game last week. So you got a bunch of factors, and then you've got, Aaron Rodgers' favorite red zone target outside of Davante Adams and Robert Tonyan. He's healthy too. So their slate of pass catchers is fully active and fully healthy and ready to go. So that's going to be the biggest thing, the biggest difference for me, for the Packers to be able to bounce back and change the outcome more or less based on what happened in that week six matchup. So one of the things I did see, though, those first two possessions, obviously the opening game script it's pretty effective for highly potent, I guess, offensive coordinators. When they put together a game plan, I tell people all the time, don't overreact to a specific game, whatever game you're watching, based on what the offense does methodically marching down the field on the first drive. Like, that's the easiest drive of the game for the offense because everything is scripted. They know exactly what they're going to do, and they have everything just literally in a list. Chronologically, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off here. We're going to get 6 yards. Boom, play action pass. Boom, boom, boom. They just, they go down the list, right? So that opening game script is a huge factor. But, obviously with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, we saw them march down the field 2 consecutive times on the Bucs to open that game, and they took a 10-0 lead. And then what happened after that? Well, a guy who doesn't turn the football over, Aaron Rodgers, he has 5 interceptions total all year, 2 of which came in 2 consecutive drives in week 6 against the Bucs. So he basically handed the Bucs 14 points defensively on consecutive drives. So, they march down the field 2 times, take a 10-0 lead, and then boom, literally flip of a switch in less than a half a quarter span, 6 or so minute span. The Bucs are now, they take a 14-10 lead off 2 touchdowns where one of them was a pick 6, and then the other one was an interception. I can't remember who picked it off, but whoever it was, I think Devin White broke on the play. It was like a quick slant or something to, or maybe it was just like a little in route to Robert Tonyan, and Devin White broke on it. It was a deflected ball, so again, really not really Aaron Rodgers' fault, but nonetheless, the pick happened, and it was returned to like the 3-yard line or something, and I think the Bucs punched it in on the very next play. So I'll go ahead and tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to hand you 14 free points again in this matchup. So you can scrap that out the window. That obviously changes. Like, it's huge from a momentum perspective and from just a game flow. Like, all of a sudden, the pressure's on you. You go from winning 10-0 to all of a sudden you look up and you're losing the game. Well, your game plan changes a little bit, especially, if you're forced off the field on a 3-and-out on the following drive, on your 3rd drive after those 2 picks, which the Packers were. Bucs go march down again and score. Now it's 21-10 Well, you're playing from behind, and guess what? Those fast linebackers, that dominant front four that the Bucs possess, they're just teeing off on a pass-heavy game script and going to sack Aaron Rodgers, getting after the quarterback. So the game flow worked out perfectly to exactly tailor-made to what the Bucs wanted to do, and they had success. Again, so we saw a pass-heavy game script favor a defense that wants to blitz, wants to bring pressure, and that's what they did. If you go back and watch those highlights in that game, they're bringing no less than 5 guys on every single play. And you guys might think, well, that's one extra than 4 down linemen, so it's not really a blitz. But literally, a lot of those plays where there was either turnovers or sacks, and quarterback pressures with Aaron Rodgers ended up on his back basically. They're bringing 6 guys and pressure, and so just again letting those linebackers get north and south, doing what they want to do. That's a big deal for that team. So what ultimately to me is interesting about this, and again, I think the term, like, the weather factor, I don't want to say that it's overstated, but in this particular instance, when you've got a team that's used to playing in warm weather, in the sun outside and in Tampa, it is to some extent it's a disadvantage to go up there to Green Bay, playing in the 20s. And I think there's actually snow in the forecast. I checked the weather forecast last night and was just kind of seeing, what the game, what impact the weather may really have on the game. And so if indeed the fact, like, the weather does become a factor just from a footing perspective, or if there's precipitation in the air, it's obviously not something that concerns me regarding Tom Brady, but just the ability to create movement off the line of scrimmage, like a team that wants to run the ball more in bad weather conditions, and conditions that they're not used to. Stuff like the length of your spikes, the spikes on your cleats comes into play. The transferring your weight when you're cutting and moving and driving, firing off the ball, that stuff changes. So like teams that are more comfortable dropping back and throwing the ball down the field, which both of these teams kind of are. The Packers do it much more efficiently than the Bucs do, but the Bucs still, I think, throw the ball down the field at the highest rate of anybody in the league. So, again, so like teams that are used to doing that in these particular circumstances are going to have a little bit easier time adjusting. So maybe that's something to watch here on whether or not the Bucs went, going back to what they prioritize offensively, like their offensive philosophy. If they're going to want to try and run the football, that's what they've done all year, and even to a fault. So you guys have probably heard me preach about the Bucs basically running the ball on first down in neutral down and distances. And before the bye, if you guys, well, I'll just say it this way. The Bucs were the worst team in the NFL, literally 32nd in the NFL on yards per attempt running the football on early downs. I think they had a week 9 bye. So they were just, that's why we saw them struggle. Like there'd be games when they had a clear advantage on the line of scrimmage, when that was a reasonable game plan, a reasonable way to attack the opposing defense, depending on who the opponent was. But then, they go play somebody like the Bears, who has a stout defensive front with guys like Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith, right? They're able to control the line of scrimmage better. All of a sudden, you can't run the football on first down anymore. So guess what? You're facing second and long every single time. It's not a recipe for success. So to me, the key is, especially if the weather's bad, if you're not able to really fire off the football and create movement on the line of scrimmage, for the Bucs to have a chance to win this game. And another key too is I don't know if you guys know, I haven't seen yet. It's 12 o'clock right now. I haven't seen if Antonio Brown is even playing. So I think I checked the practice report on Wednesday, and he hadn't practiced yet. And, they were saying he's trending positively, but that also changes things too. So whether or not the Bucs do want to adopt the more pass-heavy philosophy on first down, we may see a lot more Cameron Brate in this game just based solely upon from a personnel thing. Like I don't know if they're going to want to run Scotty Miller out there on 50, 60, 70% of their snaps, right? This might be more of a 12 personnel, 2 tight end type of game where they really do try to attack him on the ground and see if they can exploit matchups that way. I don't know exactly how they're going to approach this, but it's just kind of the way I think about it and look at it. It makes sense for me if the Bucs can throw the football 65 or more % of the time on first down and literally let Tom Brady do what he's done his entire career. Win or lose this game with Tom Brady, not with Ronald Jones having 20 carries that average 2.5 yards a carry like they did for the first 9 weeks of the season. They literally averaged 2.4 yards per carry on first down in that span. And that was, like I said, good for 32nd in the NFL. So they're going nowhere. It's just a wasted down, basically. So it's always second and long, which leads to third and long. Oftentimes when you're dropping back, you're making it easy for the defense to key on what's coming. So on first downs, neutral down and distances, it's just easier to throw the football because you can go a variety of different ways, basically, right? And so, so I think we're gonna see. Watch the Jair Alexander thing. Okay. If Antonio Brown doesn't play, which the fact that I haven't heard any news yet makes me think that he's not going to play. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of weird that if we haven't heard anything or seen positive updates since Wednesday, I don't think that bodes very well. So let's assume that AB is out or at best very limited, right? Okay, let's just say that. If Jair Alexander, who is one of the top graded corners in the entire NFL, a guy that you don't want to throw at consistently, he will make you pay. If he shadows Mike Evans the way that he did in week 6 in their first matchup and is able to take that away, then this is Chris Godwin, and then this is, it's the 2 tight ends, Cam Brate and Rob Gronkowski. But so, can Chris Godwin exploit the middle of the field? Can Rob Gronkowski, get vertical on the seam? And, we know that those guys are capable of doing those things, but how efficiently can they move the football without Antonio Brown and with a neutralized Mike Evans, who's, being shadowed more or less and taken away by Jair Alexander? So, again, like I said, 14 free points handed to you by Aaron Rodgers, not going to happen again. So the Bucs are going to have to find ways to get creative and I think adopt a different philosophy, throwing the football more often on first downs if they want to have a chance to win this game. And another key that I wrote down here is obviously the news of David Bakhtiari before their first playoff matchup last week against the Rams. He tore his ACL, which is just absolutely tragic. The number 1 graded left tackle in all of football this year, gone literally before one of the most important games of his football career. And so a name to watch is Yosh Nijman. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know if I am or not. But that matchup on the left side, protecting Aaron Rodgers' blind side against Jason Pierre-Paul and company. And whoever lines up out there, whichever of the 2 linebackers that is, whether it's Shaq Barrett, whether it's Devin White, whether it's Levante David. Obviously Shaq is classified as an outside linebacker, so he's going to be standing up on that side more often. But depending on how they disguise and dial up those blitzes, that's going to be something that I'm interested in watching too. I want to see how backup left tackle protects most important players blind side, right? Can they keep Aaron Rodgers upright in a clean pocket and with a healthy stable of receivers attack the field vertically on those corners who are susceptible to the deep ball? And so again, I think that's going to be ultimately the difference in why I think Green Bay wins. I just think going into this game or this video, I was going to be a coward and not pick a winner. These matchups are just so fun, so many different really cool storylines. I think it's just doing a disservice to just pick somebody to lose outright. I just hate that idea. So, but now I think the more I think about it, I'm like almost talking myself into it's more cowardice to not pick Aaron Rodgers to win.